Well, it comes as no surprise that we have a full house here this afternoon, certainly testament of how much John was loved. Before I do begin, could I remind you, if you haven't already done so, to switch your phones onto silent or switch them off? That would be much appreciated throughout the service. Well, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for being here today. I know that Michelle and her family, along with John's children, Mick, Kirby, Jackson and the rest of John's family, greatly appreciate the friendship, the love and the support that surrounds them at this sad time. My name is Gina Brakey, and it really is an honour to have been invited to officiate today's farewell for John. It is my hope that every part of this afternoon will remember him in a meaningful way and truly reflect on the many things that made him so special and so loved by his family, friends and indeed our community. Well, firstly, welcome to everyone here at the Christian Centre, and to those joining us via a live stream, also a very warm welcome to you all. For those who are unable to be here in person, I hope that you can all feel a part of today's service. As each of you here in person and those online remember John in your own special way, may you be warmly reminded of how much he has meant to so many. Well, I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone here this afternoon when I say that each of us is carrying a very heavy heart. It's been difficult to process the news of John's passing, and nothing could have really prepared us for the sadness that has followed. However, knowing what a practical man John was, I'm sure that today he wouldn't want us to focus on the sadness of his passing, but simply remember all of the good and happy times that you've shared. John lived his life never wanting or needing a lot of fuss made of him, but today it will be hard to not make a fuss because he certainly deserves it. It is with grateful hearts collectively that we are here to celebrate and pay tribute to a very special man, John Scionti. Today memories will be shared and you will all feel a sadness that John is no longer a physical presence in your lives. However, in spending this time together comes the warmth of a life lived and a love and many friendships shared and memories that will live on long after we say farewell. This service is a chance to take time out of our own busy lives to offer our love and our support to Michelle and to John's family and surround them with words of kindness and respect. It's important today that we begin by acknowledging those who are most special in John's life. Michelle was not only his wife, but his soulmate, confidant and best friend. Mick, Kirby and Jackson, along with their partners Charlene, Cherie and Lydia, were his pride and joy, as were his grandkids Jewel, Tiger, Coco, Texas and Banjo. Michelle's children, Tessa, Zach and Nathan and Kira and little Malia, were also blessed to have had John in their lives, and his sisters Pauline and Anna and their partners Peter and Dee and their families were proud to call him their brother and uncle. Along with John's extended family and his many friends here this afternoon, you were all an important part of his life, and I'm sure if he could, he would thank each and every one of you for the good times and the friendships that you've shared. Well, the truth about a funeral like today is, as much as it's about celebrating John's life and mourning his death, today is also a reminder to all of us to think about how we live our own lives. John was a practical man, and Michelle told me if there was just one thing that he would want us to take from today, it would be to cherish life and don't sweat the small stuff. In preparing for this service, Michelle and John's family shared with me a little about his life, and during our conversation, we discussed the inclusion of our opening poem today titled The Dash. They all agreed that it would be most fitting to share today. Sadly, not all funerals get to celebrate a long life. John still had so much to live for. He had so much love to give and so many things yet to do. He worked hard. He treated people with respect. Everyone who knew him genuinely liked him, most loved him, and there wouldn't be one person who would have a bad word to say about him. His smile, which is beautiful behind us today, his laughter and his genuine love of life is something that we will all remember, and I'm pretty sure that John would have been very proud of how he spent his dash. The Dash poem, in its simplicity, points out that the date that you were born and the date that you died aren't what really matters. It's the dash, those years in between, and what you do with them that does. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of his birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left. You could be at dash mid-range. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things that they say about how you spend your dash? Well, certainly a beautiful poem, and one that makes us think about how we live our life, which is what John wants from us today. So John was born in Bairnsdale on the 3rd of November 1960. He was the second child of Domenico, or Dom as he was known, and Marion Scionti. He had an older brother, Sam, who passed away at a young age, and two younger sisters, Pauline and Anna, whom he was very close to and loved dearly. John went to St Mary's Primary and Bairnsdale Tech School and was a bright and clever student. Being a typical young boy, John loved anything fast, motorbikes, billy carts, and in late teens he loved his bikes. His parents, Dom and Marion, owned and ran a deli on the corner of Main and Service Streets, and John worked for them from a very, very early age. When he was around 15 and still at school, he would often spend his lunch break riding to the deli to turn the chickens on the rotisserie so they'd be ready for the after-school rush, and then back to school for the afternoon. He was renowned for being late back to class, but when his teachers discovered why he was late, they gave him some leeway, recognising his work ethic. John learnt his strong work ethic from his father, Dom, and when John left school, he went to work full-time at the deli. In 1983, he married Deb and became a father to Mick before Kirby and Jackson arrived, completing the family. Dom passed away in 1984, and the following year, in May 1985, and with his mother's blessing and Deb by his side, the deli became Osmex. John was always very proud of his Italian background. His heritage was 50% Italian, 25% Scottish and 25% English, so a Mexican restaurant came as quite as a surprise. John and Deb's friends, Mike and Karen Rainey, had experience in Mexican cuisine, and they trained them for a year, and in 1986 they were out on their own. John and Deb worked tirelessly in those years to establish the restaurant, and it didn't take long for it to become a favourite among the locals. John worked at the restaurant 5 nights a week, and he befriended many people along the way. Jackson commented that his dad has employed many locals over the years, and now many of their children have worked for him also, and I'm sure that there are quite a few of you here today. Well, around 20 years ago, an opportunity to expand was too good to pass up, and John moved Osmex to its upstairs home in Nicholson Street. Over the years, this has become a fantastic cantina restaurant, and John loved nothing more than seeing a full house with happy customers, and most of them became friends. Many customers were of the younger generation, and John loved being around them. It kept him young. He was the quintessential host, friendly, social, and he would only close the bar when the last person was ready to leave. He genuinely loved seeing people having a good time, and the Mex was the place for a fun night out. All of John's kids helped in the restaurant from a very early age, doing dishes, serving meals, and providing a sense of warmth and welcome, just like their parents. Jackson started working with John in his restaurant when he was 16 and started earning his apprenticeship. Jackson will speak in a moment about the impact that has had on his life and the lessons he's learnt from his dad. Suffice to say, John was extremely happy to know that Osmex is now in Jackson and Lydia's capable hands. Well, for the past 37 years, Osmex Restaurant was the place where John truly cemented himself as a legend in town. And the 550 comments on their recent Facebook post is testament to that. When he wasn't in the kitchen rolling up chimichangas, John was behind the bar pouring you a drink, or he was at the bar shouting you a drink. John was one of the most generous people you would ever know, and he was fun to be around, and anyone who has had a night at Osmex will have experienced what a bloody good bloke he was. Well, when he wasn't at the restaurant, John loved anything to do with the outdoors. He loved to hunt for deer with his brother-in-law Peter and cousin Sab, often heading to a hut at Crooked River where they would set up camp and enjoy being out in the fresh high country air. He also loved to fish, and when Peter and Pauline lived in Benambra, John would visit and they would fish in the Dartmouth Dam. He loved fishing, and when he upgraded his boat, he was able to spend many days when the restaurant was closed out on the ocean doing what he loved. Well, snow skiing was another favourite activity, and John's kids share happy memories of time spent with their dad at the Arlberg Chalet at Hotham. He was adept on the skis, and in later years he caught up with the times on a snowboard. It took him a while to get the hang of it, but like everything else in John's life, he mastered it. He loved travelling to Japan to go skiing, and he used to travel up to Hotham on Mondays and Tuesdays during the winter when the restaurant was closed. And in the summer, it was water skiing, and he was as proud as punch when he purchased his first ski boat in his late teens. Well, when John and Deb separated in the early 2000s, work was still a huge part of his life, but he also found time to focus on being the best dad to Mick, Kirby and Jackson. And then in 2004, his new role as first-time grandfather to Jewel. Mick and Charlene were staying with John at Gould Street at the time, and when she was old enough, John would take Jewel for daily walks with his little dog Bella and take her down the park for lunch. Well, one of the happiest times in John's life was when he and Michelle got together. Michelle told me that she had first known of John when he would visit their home. Family connections go way back, and she was around 10 when they first met. Time went by, they both had families of their own, and then they both found themselves single. With mutual friends, they would often all go out together, and they spent countless nights at Osmex, drinking and laughing late into the night. From very early on, John had strong feelings for Michelle. He was her best friend and her rock during tough times, but being the gentleman he was, he waited until the time was just right to finally tell her how he felt. Michelle was over the moon because she felt the same. She knew that she had found her soulmate in John. John proposed on Christmas Day in 2013, and they were married in March 2014. And I had the honour of officiating their wedding, and it was a beautiful summer's day with lots of smiles and love all around. Well, not long after they were married, John and Michelle moved to a property on Clifton West Road and quickly became their little piece of heaven. He and Michelle created a very happy life together, and when he wasn't at work, he loved pottering at home. Close to 5 acres meant that there was always something to do, and a few wines around the fire pot with Michelle was the perfect way to finish his days. Red wine was John's drink of choice, and he loved nothing more than enjoying a few in front of an open fire. Michelle told me that one of John's favourite things about living out of town was being able to sit in the quiet and listen to the Kookaburra parent teach their younger ones to warble. In the years that they have lived there, John has discovered a variety of birds, and is here in his inquisitive nature. He investigated further and he wrote down the names of each bird on the property. John was known as Mr Intelligenti by his family because he was always teaching, learning and interested in everything that was going on around him. Well, something that Michelle and John's family were very proud of was that he was a mentor to many young people in town and was always there to offer help or guidance whenever they were in trouble. A lot of these young people aspired to be like John, caring and compassionate, and he had a reputation of being encouraging, kind and generous to anyone who needed help. Family, of course, was always important to John, and he was always very close to his siblings and extended family. And even though Pauline and Anna lived away, they kept in contact and remained in each other's lives. And whenever John could, he would always visit Anna in Melbourne, where he knew there was going to be a good night out with music, something that they share together. Well, John loved it when all of his family got together for the traditional Italian sauce making days. and he especially loved spending time with his kids and grandkids. Becoming a poppy and nono gave him a tremendous amount of joy. To put it simply, John was loved enormously by Michelle and his family, and he knew that they were there for him no matter what. Well, to say the past couple of years have been tough is an understatement, but John was determined not to let his cancer diagnosis define him. He and Michelle explored every option, and with all the appointments and treatments, he kept positive, he never complained, and it was never woe is me. He put up a brave fight, and with Michelle by his side, along with his family, he faced every challenge that came his way. Michelle promised John early on that she would never leave his side, and she didn't. Throughout his illness, she did everything in her power to help and care for her husband. She was a constant support and always by his side throughout everything. She was grateful to have had the support and help of their family and friends, along with the wonderful nurses at the palliative care team and at Bowerbirds, who were all really amazing. John had spent many months in hospital this year, but it was his wish to end his journey at home. And Michelle wanted to care for John herself, and she did. And with their family's help, they were able to support John and achieve his wish of being at home. Like a line out of Michelle's vows read, she showed Johnny unending love and devotion until his last breath, as did his family and friends, and he too also showed unending love and devotion. When John's time came last Monday and early Tuesday morning, Michelle was with him, as was his family. He was surrounded by so much love. Well, helping a loved one through a time like this is difficult, and it was a team effort by some very special people in John's life. The family would like to acknowledge the support of John's sister Anna, the support she provided to him in his last months, weeks and days. Anna and her partner Dee relocated from Melbourne late last year so they could be here to spend time with and support John over these last months. As an RCI nurse, Anna understood John's fate and she wanted to be close to support her brother, and she did. In John's last week, she was there day and night to support him and Michelle, and in John's last week, she slept on the couch in his room to ensure that he could spend his last days comfortable at home. John's sister Pauline lives in Cairns, and she and Peter spoke often to John to give him their love and their support. John was always positive and didn't want to let on to them just how unwell he was, but when his time was coming to a close, Pauline and Peter got straight on a plane to be here with their family. Well, the family would also like to acknowledge the support from other family and friends who went above and beyond for John toward the end to make his journey easier. In particular, they would like to acknowledge and thank Charlene and Jewel, who helped set up John's room with a view over his garden at he and Michelle's home, ensuring his last months at home were as comfortable as they could be. To Frank, John's best mate, who came over every day after work to catch up over a coffee. Frank always made sure and managed to make John smile. To Josie, his cousin, who was like a sister to him and provided an endless stream of his favourite meals to the house. Thank you, Josie. And to Gwenny, his other mother, who also cooked and delivered cakes and meals to the house. Thank you to Gwenny. And to Tim, who helped organise John's last trip in his boat across to Meetung for lunch with his son Mick, his uncle John and cousin Scott. All of your efforts combined, support and love was appreciated by Michelle and John's family more than words can say. Well, in concluding this eulogy, I would like to share a short Corinthians biblical passage. It was included in John and Michelle's wedding, and it epitomises Michelle's feelings of love for her soulmate. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. Well, Michelle's love never wavered or failed, and John left this world knowing how deeply he was loved by not just her, but by everyone here this afternoon. Now, that's just a very quick snapshot of John's life. As everyone here would know, it is very hard to capture everything in such a short amount of time, and John certainly had lots of memories to continue for us to cherish. And a lovely way to continue listening to those is some tributes by some very special people. And to begin our tributes, Anna has a song to sing that she would like to share with us today. She's going to begin our tributes. She's written a beautiful song for her brother John. So thank you to Anna and to her musical friends who are going to help her deliver this beautiful song.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Peter Howe. He's going to play some double bass with me today. This is a song called Sparrow and the Fox. That fox was chasing you, and you flew higher and higher and higher. You didn't know what to do. That fox jumped like the devil in the well. You found his jaws all around you. If only you could escape again. Oh, fly. Spread your wings to the wind, little sparrow. Fly, fly, little sparrow. You are strong, little sparrow. You can see the mountain in front of you. Chained to your deathbed, you slowly devoured every piece of you. Your lungs, your bones, your blood fades like the night in the wind. And lifeless, you lay your dreams in the river of death. Oh, fly, fly, little sparrow. Spread your wings to the wind, little sparrow. Fly, fly, little sparrow. You are strong, little sparrow. Fly. To the sky, see you in the dark. You will always be my glowing star. dance with your flock again. Little sparrow, fly. Fly.
Well, considering Anna and her brother John's mutual love of music, what a fitting way to begin today's tributes, although I'm sure that Jackson wishes he's gone before that. He's sitting up the front he's got a smile on his face, so that's not too bad. So Jackson is going to lead us into these very special tributes.
Obviously, that's going to be pretty hard to follow. Hi, most of you probably know me, but for those that don't, my name's Jackson Scionti. I was John's son, and I stand before you today to pay my last respects and to say my final goodbyes to my father. A lot of you will know John from the Mexican restaurant, or if you're really, really old, you might know him from the delicatessen. I have to admit that it's very difficult for me to stand here today and to do this. The difficulty is not just due to the obvious causes, the sadness, the grief, the sense of loss. This is difficult for me because of the time stolen that I won't have with my dad, and the memories he won't get to make with my two sons. One of my earliest memories of Dad was that we'd be walking down the main street of Bairnsdale, and he'd stop and talk to every single person he walked past. And I remember thinking as a child, gee, my dad must know everyone in Bairnsdale. And I guess by the turnout today, maybe he did. Dad was a great father, a loving father, and a generous man. One of the greatest gifts he ever gave me wasn't a bike or a skateboard, but it was his drive, ambition, and curiosity for learning new things. Johnny would always be there to give me advice, whether I'd asked for it or not. I could ask my dad any question, and if he didn't know the answer, he would always find it out for me. As most of you know, my dad has been passionately running Osmex for the last 37 years, and I'd just love to know how many people he's employed over those years. My guess is close to 1,000. Dad gave a lot of people in town their first jobs, whether it was as a dishie or a waitress, and there's a common theme since he's passed that I've heard from a lot of them, and it's that John was the best boss they ever had. I still remember the first day I started working for my dad. I was in year 11 at Nagel College, and the school had just rang him up and said to come and pick me up because I was in detention once again. And he picked me up in his old green Range Rover, and I remember the chat we had on the way home for the rest of my life. He said to me, "Son, you can either start behaving at school or you can come and start working in the restaurant." And let's just say I never went back to Nagel College. A normal chefing apprenticeship is 4 years, but I worked alongside my father for the last 15, and I still don't believe that I had finished the Johnny Scionti apprenticeship. Dad was very proud of his restaurant. I remember we went on a Melbourne trip with the boys to watch the footy. And of course, we ended up at Crown Casino. Dad had just ordered a round of cocktails for the boys when he seen actor Vince Colosimo in the distance. Johnny strolled over to Vince and he said, "Hey Vince, if you're ever in Bairnsdale, come up and see me at the Osmex for a good feed and a good time." Vince's only words to my father were, "Where the heck's Bairnsdale?" My dad always led by example, and he taught me numerous life lessons of what it takes to not only cook Mexican food and run a successful business, but what it means to become a man, to take care of, protect, and be the provider for my family. Dad could relate to people from all walks of life. He was an empathetic man. He valued character over pedigree. He looked for the good in people, and he usually found it. He had an enormous capacity to give of himself, and I've had many friends over the years tell me that my dad had become a mentor and a father figure in their own lives. He listened and he consoled. He was their friend. Age was never a barrier. One of my favourite things about Dad was his deep love for music. He always had a new album or artist to show me. He introduced me to some amazing music over the years: JJ Cale, Sunny Boys, Dire Straits, Jimmy Smith, anything from rock and blues to jazz and funk. We were fortunate enough to go on a holiday to the Bairnsdale Blues Festival in 2011. Dad's little sister Anna actually performed at the Bairnsdale Blues Festival just this year. John was beyond proud of his little sister's musical achievements over the years. He would always share her upcoming gigs and tell anyone who would listen how amazing she was, as you've all just seen how amazing she is. My dad always said that if you work hard, the rewards will always follow. Not only did me and my father work together for the last 15 years, we also played together. I'm not sure if we worked harder or if we played harder. Between the offshore fishing trips at Bermagui and the snow trips to Japan, my dad always played hard. My dad loved to fish. I used to joke that my dad loved his boat like a fourth child. As you've all seen, it's parked out the front there. He used to always go fishing with George from the hamburger shop. And as a kid, I remember thinking that maybe they were part of some sort of fast food mafia. I will always remember and cherish the truly special times that we spent together in his boat, chasing schools of tuna or trawling for marlin, cracking a beer to celebrate bagging out on fish, or cracking a beer because we caught absolutely nothing. My dad would always be the first person at the boat ramp and the last one in for the day. Now that you have passed, Dad, I can imagine there are a lot of fish celebrating that they get to continue swimming with their friends rather than being hooked on the end of your line. I know, no matter what, that my dad did the best he could, always. One of the last things my dad told me before he passed was how proud he was of me and Lydia for taking over the family business. And I promised you, Dad, to always make you proud. I love you, Dad.
Thanks, Jackson. A beautiful tribute. And I hate to say, but I think most of you here, most of us here are really, really old, because I'm sure most of us here do remember that deli. I know I certainly do. So that makes me really, really old. Okay, so our next speaker is John's uncle, John McCafferty. He'd like to... Where's John? Here he is. He's just got a couple of things he'd like to share with us today. Are you right to get up there, John?
Thank you, everyone. As we just said, I'm John McCafferty. I'm John's mother's brother, and also his sister Madeline's here, and brother Bernard. But thank you, everyone, for being here today. I know I'll probably repeat a lot of things that have previously been said, but this is the last thing I thought I would be doing to farewell a much-loved nephew and cousin. As you know, John had an elder brother, Sam, who unfortunately passed away when he was still a baby. He also has two sisters, Pauline and Anna, and their partners. John also has three children, Mick, Jackson and Kirby, and their partners. In our early years, we lived at Nungurna, and while there, my sister Marion, my father Jock, went to work at the Climner Hotel. It was there that Marion met Dominic, who also worked there. After their marriage, Dominic and his brother-in-law, Paul, in approximately 1958, took over an old fish and chip shop in Bairnsdale, and they virtually gutted it and turned it into the Capri restaurant. And it became the first place in town where you could buy rotisserie chickens, and it was a very popular place. After a few years, Dominic and Marion had Dom's Delicatessen. Dominic was always a person with a great big smile, and you were always welcome. After his father's untimely passing, John took over the deli and turned it into the Osmex restaurant. I wondered why at the time, but he obviously knew what he was doing, and it became a big success and became one of the best places to eat in Bairnsdale. And I'm sure that Jackson will continue in his father's footsteps. John and Pauline and Anna have had a bit to deal with over the years, having to lose their father and mother at a very early age. But they had the strength and resilience to carry on. A new era came into John's life when he met and married Michelle, and you could tell there was so much love between them. We saw a lot more of them, and we were able to come to and join in celebrations as their marriage and birthdays. On a lighter note, they came to my daughter Michelle's 50th birthday party celebration, and after a great evening, John and Michelle stayed with other cousins in a motel in Traralgon. And it was lucky for them that our granddaughter was the manageress. Otherwise, they may have been out on the street. There you go, it has always been a laughing matter. John and Michelle travelled to England, Scotland, Ireland and Europe on trips, enjoying their time together. And they were very fortunate that Jackson was able to take on the role at the restaurant, which he's now the boss and is doing a great job. John loved to go out in his boat fishing, etc., and I'm sure there were lots of special memories for him. And it was so very special for my son Scott and myself 3 weeks ago when John drove his boat from Nicholson to Meetung, and we met them with his family and friends and enjoyed a couple of beers. And to see that lovely smile on John's face was so very special and will be a memory we shall forever savour. Oh, too many bits of paper here. We know that the last couple of years have been terrible for John and Michelle and family, and our thoughts go out to them. A big thank you to Michelle for her love and strength she saw and had to endure, and she was always by his side. Also, a big thanks to Anna for all the love and care and knowledge she provided. We know that John is at peace now and no more suffering, and will be in the arms of his mother and father and brother Sam. Rest in peace, John. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I know it was important, especially Anna mentioned it'd be lovely if you could just share a few words of John's parents' early life, and certainly I'm going to add a really, because I'm going to say There's a lot of people that must be really, really, really old here if they remember the Capri restaurant. I do. So, next we have Olive and Josie, John's cousins. John's cousin Josie and Olive would like to come forward and share with us a poem for today. You like to share that, darling?
My granddaughter Olive wrote this for her Uncle John. Dear Johnny, my heart is broken and your suffering has ended. I'm happy you're somewhere that makes you happy. Maybe you've already made some friends up there. Maybe you can have a chance to talk to some of the family and be with your mum and dad. What's that? Today, I'm going to share one of these many memories, Johnny, and I had to go together. Johnny was very interested in technology. I'm going to miss him from when we're sitting on the couch together and he would ask me lots of questions about how does this work? What's that? And how did you just do that? And would just stay on the couch for hours and I would explain everything. I miss doing that and I miss doing everything with you. I miss you, Uncle Johnny. I love you. Good girl.
Thanks, Joyce. Thanks, Olive and Joyce. That was beautiful. Now, Frank. Where's Frank? It was best mate at the front here. Frank, if you'd like to come forward, he's got a couple of things he'd like to say.
I've normally lost the words. Johnny was my best mate. And I'm going to miss him. I normally don't write anything down. But I thought, if I don't write it down, someone won't be able to read it because I don't think I'm going to be able to read it. Plus, I've got these reading glasses that don't help you read it all. So, I'm going to get Lisa to read this out.
All right. Yeah, not often he's lost for words. Okay. So Frank's voice, okay. Johnny's been a part of all of my life. The connection started before I even knew him. His mother taught my mother to speak English. John would always be picking on me on my bad grammar, and I kept telling him, don't go off at me, because I learnt to speak the way your mum taught my mum. It would have been pretty funny though, a Scottish Sicilian dialect to English to a Calabrese dialect. So imagine there would have been a few words lost in translation. I believe it was destiny me and Johnny were going to be best mates. I introduced John to Saturday brodo, the chicken soup, and right up until the end he was still enjoying it. Johnny had many names, depending on the occasion as to what we called him. John, Johnny, Johnny Stew, Johnny Di Sotto, Mr Intelligente, and Mama Loco. It was the late Billy King who changed John's name to Johnny Di Sotto and mine to Frankie Manara, like two mafia hitmen. From that day on, it was how Johnny and I communicated. Di Sotto, Manara. And I know the manager of Aldi was disappointed to hear of John's passing. His profit will be down without Johnny lining up for his special buys every week. I could speak non-stop for a week on the stories of the things we did. Our night at the Logies, our football trip, New Zealand. But what goes on at Mex stays at Mex. But Facebook was a game changer. Our partners were starting to find out what we were up to before we even got home. So we had to start toning things down. One story that will always stay with me, though, is when we went to a bar in New Zealand. There were two beautiful blonde waitresses we got talking to. And we asked them where they were originally from. Latvia, they said. They said, you probably don't know where Latvia is. Well, I had no idea, but Johnny said, yeah, I know where Latvia is, speaking like Mr Intelligenti. Good job, John, I was thinking. The girls then asked, well, what is the capital of Latvia? Here we go, I thought. Let's see if Mr Intelligenti knows this. And Johnny comes out with the word Riga. And the girls were blown away. And I'm thinking, well, there you go. But from that day on, I'll never forget that Riga is the capital of Latvia. Rest in peace, my friend. You were there for me in my darkest moments, and it was an honour to be with you at the end. I can never replace you, but I'll always be there to look out for Michelle, Jackson, and all of your family. Love you, mate.
Thanks to Frank and Lisa. Beautiful memories and just touching the surface on lots to share. So next, I would like to invite Tim Beveridge forward. Lydia's brother, Tim, has written a tribute and he would like to share it himself with us today.
Firstly, I'd like to say how very honoured that I have been asked to write something for today. Mr John Scionti, Johnny Shonts, this nickname was thrown around mostly when he was drunk. You were the man that so many idolised and adored. An adored man, adored husband, father and nonna. He ran hands down the most popular restaurant in Bairnsdale. And the one thing that I loved about you the most, you were such a keen fisherman. Like most, you were definitely a person that I looked up to. I first became to know Johnny when my younger sister Lydia started dating Jackson. I was quickly introduced to the father-in-law, who I found that we had so much in common. We would speak most weeks about anything and everything, talked shit, I believe that our wives would say. Most times on the way home, I would make sure that I would park on this one spot on the top of our hill, so I knew that I would have full service to talk fishing. What felt like 20 minutes, I was quickly reminded when I got home that I was gone at least an hour and a half. Once Johnny found out that I was a chef, I started to get the odd phone call to see if I could come to work at the Osmex. This was always an instant yes for me, because let's face it, it was never work when it came to Johnny and the great crew at Osmex. It was what I like to call it, an education on fishing. I came in to do a week's worth of work, only to find out that it wasn't Johnny and I, but it was Jackson who was running the show. Johnny decided to go and live the life and holiday overseas. And this was just the beginning of Johnny having a taste of retirement. And of course, Jackson becoming what we all knew that he would be the one who would eventually run the show. We did so many fishing trips to Burmese, chasing the marlin, the tuna and the kingfish. The drive up in Johnny's beloved old green Land Rover, the trips at 3 a.m. were pretty goddamn cold, with no heater. And on the way home, when it was so hot, that air conditioner never worked. On one of the trips, Johnny, Jacko and I went to Burmese. We fished all day and we were going to back it up the next day with an early 5 a.m. start the next morning. We all planned to have an early night But in true Johnny Scionti fashion, he met up with some blokes that we were staying at our accommodation, and he got on the whiskies. He talked the night and the morning away. Johnny staggered home. He had 2 hours sleep, but he still managed to drag himself out of bed at 5 a.m. We fished for the rest of the day, but as I remember it, it was Johnny that slept on the floor of the boat the whole day while Jackson and I did the fishing. But he was still there. We have done some miles and miles trying to catch that sortie that you've always wanted. We've always said we would do it. We will get that 200 kg sortie. Up until 3 weeks ago, Johnny said, I'm still going to catch that sortie. Once my bloody leg gets better, we're going. He would say it. And the fight, the optimism, the determination was so inspirational. He had me convinced that he would, because it was Johnny. But as it turned out, that bloody leg never got better. Nor did Johnny. But I promise you, mate, we will get that sortie in your boat someday. When we got the dreaded news that there was nothing else that we could do, Johnny said to me, mate, get me out in that water one last time. I knew that this would be hard due to his health, but I watched that weather and the wind, and we planned it to a T. There were days that the weather was great, but Johnny was just not up to it. We finally picked 2 days of weather. I drove the 3 hours. Day one, Johnny was just far too crook. On day two, I was about to go home. Johnny gives me a call. Be at mine in an hour. We're going to do this. I arrived at Johnny's and took one look at him and said, mate, we're not going anywhere. But Anna said, no, we're going to do this. He is going to do this. He was so determined. With the boat ready, I made up a ramp so we could get him in and out. And off we went down to the Nico ramp. I was so nervous, only travelling the measly 5 kilometres. As Frank would say, mate, you're driving like an old lady. We managed to set Johnny up to drive his boat. My heart broke in a split second. It was as if he was back. He was the Johnny that didn't deserve this dreadful illness. We cruised at a good pace, and then in the next minute, Johnny just pulled on that throttle, and here we were travelling to the Meetung pub doing 80 kilometres an hour. We were so bloody lucky that there were no police trawling that day. We would have been in so much trouble, not only for the speed that we were travelling, but the amount of drugs that Anna must have gave Johnny. So if we had been pulled up, the amount of drugs that he would have been in his system, it would have made the day. It would have been a story worth telling. It was worth every second. The smile from ear to ear, the laugh, the way his face just lit up was something that I will be forever grateful for. That day was the last time that Johnny was out in his beloved boat on the water that he loved with some of the most dearest people to him. Thank you, Michelle, for trusting me to get him on that boat and on that water. Anna, for just saying that we're doing it, because I was not game to mess with you. And last of all, for Johnny, for being a huge part of my life. You will always be there. With every fishing trip, we will get that sortie that I promised you. It will never be the same on the water, but I know that you'll be with me every step. The world is a little sadder for losing you, but by goodness, heaven won't know what's hid it when Johnny Scionti has arrived. Love you, mate. Tim.
Thanks, Tim, with a little help from his wife, Melissa. Thank you for sharing that. Some really very special memories. Now, to conclude our tributes, I have two very special people to come forward. We have Tessa and Zach, Michelle's children, who would like to read out their tributes today. Michelle's coming up too.
John's beautiful wife, Michelle, our mum, really wanted to be able to say something here today and talk about her love for her Johnny. But as I'm sure you can understand, she struggled to find the words. There are no words adequate enough to describe her love for him. When Mum and John got engaged all those years ago, she asked me if I could design the wedding invitation for her. At the time, I found some words that I felt suited their relationship perfectly, given the friendship they had shared well before they became a couple. And now, at John's passing, they hold even more meaning than we could have ever imagined in that moment. Two lives, two hearts, joined together in friendship, united for eternity in love. John will forevermore hold a place in Mum's heart, just as he will in all of our hearts. It takes a special person to be able to love someone else's children as their own. And my dear Johnny, I felt that love tenfold. I will be forever grateful for the endless love, support, encouragement and guidance that he showed me since he entered our family. There will now be a hollow spot in our hearts and our lives where he should have been for years to come. We'll make sure that we continue to keep his memory alive. I can't wait to share his precious memory with my future children one day, to be able to tell them all about the wonderful man that I had the privilege of being able to call my stepfather. To teach them how to live in Johnny Shont's world, just like he would have taught them if he had been able to stay. He fought hard, and I am filled with so much pride, having witnessed the strength he showed these last 2 years. Rest in peace now, our sweet Johnny.
They say first impressions count a lot, but what's more important for me is consistency. I honestly can't remember the first time I met John, but it doesn't matter because it's the years that I was blessed enough to spend with him that do count. He carved his own place in my life, and he did it with his kindness and his endless enthusiasm, and most of all, with his fierce love for my mother. I was lucky enough to see him treat her with such care and love that I had no doubt in my mind that he was the right fit for this family. I'm forever grateful for the example he set for me. While he was an incredibly extroverted person compared to me, it's the quiet times at home that I will remember most. Him and Mum belly laughing over some stupid TV show. Getting caught in late night conversations about fishing, or him catching me up on a documentary that I walked halfway through and couldn't even focus on the TV because he was telling me everything he'd learnt in the process. It's okay. I'll miss having my ear talked off about fish, not for the information, but for the enthusiasm, the joy that he felt just expressing his interests, and his smile. It was something that I'll remember forever. the warmth of his heart always shone through with his smile. Thank you for everything, Johnny. I'll hold on to that smile for the rest of my life. We love you, Johnny. Thank you. You want to say something?
Like Tessa said, I wanted to say something about my Johnny, but I couldn't find the words to adequately sum up my feelings for him. I promised him just before he passed away that I would make him proud today and that I would be strong for him, even though my heart is shattered. And looking at everyone's faces here today, he would be so honoured. He underestimated the impact that he has had on this town. We were trying to find somewhere big enough to have everyone gather, and he honestly didn't realise that there were so many people that loved him. So I just thank each and every one of you for being part of his life. To John's family, for accepting me into his life, thank you. And Johnny, I'll love you forever. Thank you.
Beautiful memories. I wasn't prepared for you to speak, Michelle. You got me undone there. Okay, so we have a full house, as I've mentioned, as everyone here would realise. So there are going to be so many stories and memories to share. And a lovely way to do this is to join Michelle and her family and John's family later today at the RSL. We are going to leave here and head to the Bairnsdale Lawn Cemetery, where we will finish or conclude this celebration of John's life. And then I know that the family warmly invite you to the RSL, which is a really lovely way for you to continue sharing your memories and stories in a less formal setting. So there's a warm invitation there for you to enjoy the family a bit later on. So on that note, after all those beautiful tributes, I'm sure that everyone here has conjured up so many memories and stories in your own minds, and a lovely way to just sit within your own thoughts is to enjoy a photo presentation. There's been quite a few photos that have been culled a little bit, but we've got some very special ones to share with a couple of really very beautiful pieces of music. So enjoy this photo presentation of John's life.
Now these thoughts are
to be. And in these times that we're apart, I'll hear this song that breaks my heart and think of you. Of the dreams we dreamt together, of the love we vowed would never melt like snowflakes in the sun. My days now end as they begun with thoughts of you, and I think of you. Of you. Down the streets I walked with you, seeing others doing things we do. Now these thoughts are haunting me of how complete I used to be. And in these times that we're apart, I'll hear this song that breaks my heart and think of you. And I think of you. And think of you. Think of you, and I do.
searching for a heart of gold. I've been a miner for a heart of gold.
Certainly some beautiful memories in those photos. And as we started today, I was chatting to someone out in the foyer and I was saying how sad it was that obviously John had so much to do and so much life to live. And this person said, if you have loved and had fun at your work, it hasn't really been work. And certainly, sure, he has worked hard, but he's also had a lot of fun. So he, as much as he's missed out, he's also had a lot of fun times over those over the years, and those photos are certainly testament to that. So hopefully that will put a smile on everyone's face, knowing that he has certainly had a life full of lots of love and lots of fun. Well, today we have been reminded of how short life really is, and of how we are simply just passing through. We know that we should have had more time with John, but we can't live our lives thinking about all of the things that might have been. It's important that today we remember the things that you are happy for, the moments that made John smile, and in time, I hope these things will help you all smile again. John has left beautiful memories of kindness, strength, and love. He taught us how to live with integrity, how to deal with struggles, and he's taught us what it meant to live with humour and joy. While not every moment was easy, John gave everything he had right to the very end, and for that, I know that Michelle and his family are so grateful. Well, on behalf of Michelle, of Mick, Kirby and Jackson and John's family, I would like to say a very special thank you for the outpouring of love and of support that they've received over the past few weeks, and the past week in particular. It's been overwhelming that so many people have reached out, and it's appreciated really more than words can say. They are all heartbroken to be experiencing this loss, but John's spirit will live on in their hearts and minds forever, just as his memory will live on with everyone here today. I'd like to finish with a few words that I say to John on behalf of everyone here this afternoon. What moves through us is a silence, a quiet sadness, a longing for one more day, one more word, one more moment together. We may not understand why you left this earth so soon, or why you left before we were ready to say goodbye. But little by little, we will begin to remember not just that you died, but that you lived, and that your life has given us memories too beautiful to forget. Well, thank you so much for being here this afternoon and for taking the time to pay your respects. John would be both humbled and amazed at the turnout, but there's no question he 100% has earned our respect and our friendship. Rest in peace, Johnny Scionti, and thank you for the memories.
Grab your coat, grab your hat, leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street.
Can't you hear that pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street.
I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade.
But he's not afraid. This rover crossed over.
And if I never have a cent, I'll be rich as Rockefeller,
with gold dust at his feet on the sunny side of the street. say, with all those blues on parade. But I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over, and if I never have a cent, I'll be rich as Rockefeller. The gold dust at his feet on the sunny side, on the sunny side. Sunny side of the street.
Well, it's all right, riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right, if you live the life you please. Well, it's all right, doing the best you can. Well, it's all right, as long as you lend a hand.
You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring.
Well, it's all right, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's all right, sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's all right, as long as you got someone to lay. Well, it's all right, every day is Judgment Day.
Maybe somewhere down the road away, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days. Maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays Purple Haze.
Well, it's all right, even when push comes to shove. Well, it's all right, if you got someone to love. Well, it's all right, everything will work out fine. Well, it's all right, we're going to the end of the line.
Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. I'm just glad to be here, happy to be alive. And it don't matter if you're by my side, I'm satisfied.
Well, it's all